the best thing to do right now would be to describe what I'm doing as an entrepreneur to try and push this ahead and create an example of what a company could be like, an example that is so attractive to people on so many different levels that it will convert the economy into a new economy, which I've been calling revolutionary capitalism. Okay, we have a product, and the product is very interesting. It's a wheelchair that converts into an electric motorcycle. How it does that exactly is proprietary, but will be revealed. Because one of the important things I think about doing business in the new way, in the new age business, is to be transparent. So everything that this corporation that I'm forming does is going to be available online for anybody to look at and have comment on and learn from. For example, the product itself will be an open source design. Open source has been very successful in producing products on the internet. Open source means it's not a proprietary, trademarked, patented thing kept in secret, but in fact an open thing that a lot of people can get their fingers on. And because so many people are working on it and they're having forums and conferences across the internet all the time, all the bugs get fixed very rapidly, and it keeps improving, and it becomes a very steady platform. Well, we can do open source inventions. Right now, most things that you invent are proprietary because you want to protect your right to make money off of them. A capitalist idea, if I ever heard of one. But what if you were to open an invention open to the public? Say, for example, you want to invent the perfect wheelchair. And you know that there are hundreds of thousands of people who use wheelchairs every day. Imagine if some percentage of them got involved in the design of the wheelchair, and you allowed them to sort of develop a definition of what that wheelchair should be like in a collective way. Everybody has input to it, and people can criticize it, and people can talk about a better way of doing it. It will naturally improve, naturally evolve into the best product possible. Whereas if you have one little engineer in his garage building a wheelchair that he thinks is revolutionary, you have this proprietary secretiveness that's the normal way of doing things. You don't really get the product that you possibly could have gotten by having all the collaboration and openness. It's also a matter of market strategy, because the people who get involved and are interested in helping you design and build whatever it is, whatever product it is, in this case maybe a wheelchair, they're your market. They're the people who are interested in buying the product when it's ready to be available. They're the people who have the disability that requires them to have a wheelchair. They're your audience as well as your inventor. It's kind of a nice democratic way of doing things. So I advocate openness. I don't think that patents and trademarks are worth a dime, and in fact they're not. If you're a little garage inventor and you invent something that is really worth millions of dollars, but in its invention and distribution it's going to cost a large corporation huge amounts of money. For example, if you invented a fuel made out of water, as some claim they have done, the oil companies are not going to be happy, and they're going to send their torpedo from Chicago to blow up your garage. And there's many examples of that. I mean, it sounds silly and Hollywood-like, but corporations will protect themselves no matter what, as will governments and certain groups. The openness also protects you from that kind of behavior, because everybody knows what you're doing. They can reproduce it in their own laboratory, and there's no way for any outside force that has vested interest in stopping you to actually stop you. They could blow up your garage, but there are 50 other garages where people are making the same thing. So having a patent and having the secrecy in order to protect your future profits doesn't really make sense anymore. It's kind of old age hack. Well, what if I produce a product, or even if a group in an open way produces a really hot product? Who benefits from it? Who gets the income from it? Well, we all agree, because we're doing this democratically, that everybody's input is worth something, and so if somebody enhances the product, they should get some kind of royalty on it, but we don't have to make it secret in order for that to happen. Patents and trademarks are good, and they keep a lot of lawyers rich in creating them. But in fact, if a big corporation wants to fight you in court over a trademark or over an invention that you patented, they're going to tie you up for 20, 30 years in court. And by the time the decision comes down, even if it's on your side, everybody's broke and the lawyers are rich, and well, we know all about that. So I'm advocating kind of an open source everything, where everything is above board. Well, what kind of company would come out of thinking in that way? The company that I'm starting I call Gaia Trike. It means Earth Bike. It's a wheelchair that converts into a recumbent tricycle. It does so while you're seated in it, and it allows you to have some fun in your life, whereas the regular power wheelchair is really a stodgy old machine. That's just one example of a product that might be talked about. So where do we go from there? What kind of factory are we going to build the Gaia Trike in? Well, first of all, it's going to be owned by the workers, and this is not a new concept. It's an old one. It's like the co-op. It's happened in various places at various times in the United States as well. When the people who actually do the work own the business, there's a kind of pride of ownership and a quality that comes into being that is self-motivated instead of top-down dictated. So that people really want to succeed, really want the company to work well, want it to be the best quality product possible. And there's a lot of benefits in having the people who actually do the work own the business. So we're talking about a cooperative rather than a top-down dictatorship. Oh my God, a cooperative instead of a top-down dictatorship? Is this capitalism versus democracy? Yeah, but democracy is on the top, and capitalism is on the bottom. We all want to make a profit, we all need to pay our bills, but we don't need to be fanatic about it. And so the company that's owned by its workers has the chance of being a democratic institution doing a normally dictatorial function. That is, the CEO tells the vice presidents tells the department heads tell this, and it finally gets down to the workers who do the work, and they're being dictated to rather than asked to cooperate in creating a quality product. So that changes things right there. And of course the B Corporation I mentioned earlier allows you to function in a way that is legal as well as profitable. So how do you have a profit when people are being paid what they're worth? There's the key to this question. If I'm building anything, let's say a wheelchair, and I'm a worker on the shop room floor, and you're paying me, let's say $20 an hour, just round numbers, and that when the product is sold, it yields an amount of money and a net profit that is equal to, say, $30 an hour. If I were to be paid $30 an hour, there would be no profit. But if I'm paid $20, there's a $10 profit in there. Simple mathematics. There's a balance there that has to be decided. Okay, so I was talking about a benefit corporation owned by the workers, and how the workers will get paid a lot more money than a regular corporation because they decide where the profit goes. And I mentioned that profit is often given in the form of dividends to the people who own stock in the corporation. What is the purpose of stock? Well, it's to raise money, to build buildings, to buy equipment, to hire people in order to make the corporation in the first place. So there's a public offering, that is a stock offering that goes to the public, and people with money who are looking for a way to make maximizing their profit on that money, and they are called capitalists, are going to give you some money with the hopes of reaping their just rewards. The problem is that the stock becomes a commodity unto itself and separates from the company that's issued it. So a stock can go down because there's a panic in the market, but why would it affect the original issuer of that stock? Why would this factory have to be closed because the stock went down, for example? And what it is that stock, remember, is a function of raising money to grow bigger and bigger, hopefully making more and more profits for the 1%. So the 1% suddenly says, I don't think this stock is worth anything, and boom, the stock hits the bottom. The stockholders, the shareholders, have a meeting, and they say, look, the stock is not worth anything anymore. You need to shut down before we lose everything. We need to disassemble this factory, sell all the equipment, sell the real estate, sell off all its assets, throw everybody out of work, because that's the only way I'm going to make any money in the next few months. Your stock isn't giving me any dividends, and I'm the one who owns the company, and I want my money. It seems to be working that way, and there are other reasons why a otherwise healthy, functioning company has to close its doors because its stock went down. You have to remember that the ownership of the stock is who owns the company and who ultimately runs the company in most cases. Oh my God, but this company is owned by the workers. It's not owned by the 1% who own the stock. And so they don't have to shut their doors. They can decide to continue in spite of the fact that they're not yielding dividends in the stock market, and that their stock is worth pennies compared to what it was originally, or whatever. They can separate that, just cut that link right there. So people can say, well, the stock isn't worth anything, but the company's functioning well. And, there's still some clarity that's needed in that area, but that seems to be my take on it, at least, for right now.